Bonjour tout le monde. Je suis contente de vous donner un dernier vidéo pour cette session d'été de notre cours. C'est le temps futur. Les temps futurs, de temps pour l'avenir. I'm talking in sort of a pun about future and future in French because l'avenir means the future that is ahead of us in time, and futur refers to the grammatical tense that talks about future events in verbs. Um, I'm going to actually go over two different categories of future tenses. For some of you, this is going to be a review. For others of you, it is just going to be a bit of a reinforcement of things that you've sensed in your reading. But let's get started. Vous pouvez réviser les temps futurs aujourd'hui. You can revise the future tenses today. Pour certains, le futur, c'est déjà une leçon passée. Brum, bum, for some of you, learning the future is an old lesson that already happened. L'avenir se conjugue ainsi. I should say, really, le futur se conjugue ainsi, but I was being sort of cute with a play on words. The future conjugates itself this way. Ce n'est pas le temps le plus difficile que vous avez appris. This is not the hardest tense you've learned, even with me. The conditional is harder. And some of the other reflexive things that we've gone over are harder. And there are a few irregularities, and we're going to go over that in the basic future tense. But you'll notice how very simple it is if you look at this. So, parler, an typical ER verb, all regular ER verbs do this, and some irregular ER verbs do it. Je parlerai, tu parleras, il parlera, nous parlerons, vous parlerez, ils parleront. What I am saying here is all of the tenses here are I will speak, you will speak, he will speak, we will speak, y'all will speak, they will speak. And notice that what happens here is there is the infinitive of the verb parler and an ending which is really very much like the endings of the conjugation of the irregular verb avoir. Et, a, et, and that actually works pretty well. Okay, so notice the next one. Partir. Partir, an IR verb, which is actually irregular in some instances. In terms of how it's conjugated in the past, but here it is regular as the day is long. And again, we see the infinitive plus these same endings. Je partirai, tu partiras, elle partira, nous partirons, vous partirez, elles partiront. So all of these, again, are following a very similar pattern. And the same here with perdre. Perdre is a regular RE verb in the third category. And the only change here is one of eliminating the E at the end of the infinitive, perdre, because normally you really can't have the two vowels together without changing the sound of what is said. So, je perdrai, tu perdras, on perdra, nous perdrons, vous perdrez, ils perdront. So, uh, all of these things are really pretty set in stone in a way. Again, it's the infinitive with a few little tweaks in most cases with those endings. The endings are used to indicate futurity throughout both regular and irregular verbs. Pendant que la majorité des conjugations, même des verbes irréguliers, euh, suivent ces modèles, il y a des instances d'irrégularité. So let me explain. Mostly what I've said even goes for irregular verbs, like well, we'll see this. But here are some instances where the root it changes. You don't say for être, for example, j'étrais. You say what actually would be the Latin root. Je serai. And avoir, again, I don't say j'avrais. I say j'aurais. J'aurais. Aller, j'irai. Envoyer, which is in fact a regular ER verb in the present tense. J'enverrai. J'enverrai. Faire, je ferai. Vouloir, je voudrais. Devoir, je devrais. Voir, je verrai. Pouvoir, je pourrais. Tenir, je tiendrai. Savoir, je saurai. And another verb I'll give you is voir. Oh, actually, I do give you. Never mind. Pardon me. I will not be so senile as to forget that. There are a couple of other instances throughout the entire language of irregularities, but they are rare enough that I don't feel like you're likely to encounter them at this stage of your fluency. I think that you've got it here. These are the irregular roots for the future tense for the most part. Pourtant, la majorité des verbes irréguliers sont conjugués au futur comme s'ils étaient réguliers. I said that before in English, but so I'll say it again. Even if you have a verb which is conjugated irregularly within its category of those three, it will be conjugated as if it were regular largely within the future tense. Let me give you an example. Par exemple, le verbe boire. Boire is an irregular RE verb. Mais le verbe est conjugué comme un verbe régulier du groupe RE. Je boirai, tu boiras, etc. This makes the future in some ways relatively easy compared to some other things you've had to learn, as I said before. Il y a aussi un autre temps qui s'appelle futur antérieur. Qu'est-ce que c'est que le futur antérieur? Ceci exprime un moment dans l'avenir qu'une chose où une chose sera déjà fait, un fait accompli. So, an example of what the French are calling the futur antérieur would exist if I said, when I am 90 years old, I will have seen a lot of craziness. I will have seen. Voici des exemples du futur antérieur. I'll give you both English and French here. Before March, we will all have received the vaccine. Allow me to say from my mouth to God's ears. Avant mars, nous aurons tous reçu le vaccin. By tomorrow morning, we will have learned the election results. Dès demain matin, nous aurons appris les résultats des élections. Aussi, also, differently, in 200 years, we will all be dead. En 200 ans, nous serons tous morts. In 10 years, my daughter will have left for college. En 10 ans, ma fille sera partie pour l'université. So, what I would have you notice about the things that are above and below the word aussi here is that, well, first of all, the verb that's being conjugated in the future is not the main verb. It's not recevra, for example, in the first case, but auront reçu. It's the auxiliary verb. Avoir is the auxiliary verb, and that's what gets turned future. The past participle is what it always is. And in both of the first two cases, as is indeed the case for most passé composé in French, the auxiliary verb is in fact avoir. But there are certain exceptions. En 200 ans, nous serons tous morts. In 10 years, my daughter will have left for college. Ma fille sera partie pour l'université. Sera partie is the correct way to use the auxiliary verb here because, again, mourir is conjugated in the passé composé as well as the futur antérieur with être as the auxiliary verb. Partir, être. Je suis partie au Maroc, for instance. Elle est partie à l'université is how I would say it in the passé composé. En disant ma fille sera partie pour l'université. So there we have it. That is how the futur antérieur works. It's the conjugation in the future of the auxiliary verb with a past participle. Depending on the nature of the verb, when you use it in the passé composé, you're still going to use that verb. You're just going to conjugate it in the future. Notez. En employant le futur antérieur, l'on ne conjugue que le verbe auxiliaire en temps futur. L'on se sert du même participe passé que l'on utilise pour le passé composé. That's kind of obvious. That's kind of, you get it? That's what I've been saying. Donc, and notice I have future objects because we're working in the future. This is vaguely Stanley Kubrick-ish. Donc, puisque vous avez 2 temps à réviser ou apprendre, il est temps de confronter l'avenir avec les temps futurs avec un devoir. Donc, le devoir est ainsi. Traduisez ces phrases en français. I will have finished cooking dinner by the time they return. I want you to translate that into the future, either antérieur or otherwise. 2, he will send the letter after he will have purchased a stamp for it. 3, we will eat together after the restaurant closes. 4, you will choose the right job if you do some research on the companies that are hiring. 5, They will have taken first prize next year if they keep rehearsing that lovely song. Those are fairly sophisticated sentences. The truth is that English doesn't get a lot more structurally complicated than that, and neither does French most of the time. So here you are, you know, aiming for the bleachers with your while you're at bat. This is going to be great. You're going to do great. What else to say? Je lirai vos traductions. I will read your translations quand vous les aurez complétées, when you will have completed them. This video is a little short this week, but I think it's very loaded with just what you need to know grammatically. And I will ask you to stick around for another 15 minutes or so of conversation when we meet for Zoom so that you will have a full class. I'm not trying to shortchange you in any way. I just wanted to give you what I think is a substantive lesson. It's just not a very long one. So I am looking forward to seeing you in class, and I hope you have enjoyed the graphics of this video, even though I know that grammar is not as much fun as a trip to Disneyland. Well, maybe today it is. Anyway, we were in Tomorrowland today. Talk to you soon on Zoom. Bye-bye.